Welcome to Between the Joints with two assholes.
Ultimately, we innovated a lot since then. It was funny because ballistics was everywhere. Everybody was saying ballistics, just use ballistics, put ballistics on it. And that's why it became the running joke, because really it would bond to damn near anything. And people realized, like, I could put a film forming protective coat over this and that and this, but then people hated it. Like, they hated it. They did not want to see Corey Colson or ballistics.
Yeah, it's not just the product. They're like, these people hate you on a personal level.
That's it. It has nothing to do with the product.
It's hilarious.
And some of these folks have actually used the product, and I've got it in black and white how much they love it.
Right.
But they hate this face. They want to punch this face. Right. So yeah, it's been a fun ride. But back to, so you and I, you obviously found ballistics.
I sent you a message.
Yeah.
Like while that infamous post, like, you were live, and like once I like could feel that hurt that you were conveying and showing the frustration, and I messaged you, and I can't remember exactly how I put it, but it essentially was like, forgive them, they know not what they do. Like, it's that biblical reference of like, you just got to forgive people for behaving like animals, because at the end of the day, that's all we are. We're fancy animals, and people jump into these little tribes and this hive of mind, and they just roll with whatever. And a lot of it is very wicked behavior. And I don't say that as some like self-righteous guy. Like, I mean, I'm a wholesome dirtbag. Like, I am not above like, some very unbecoming behavior.
Yeah.
But you always have to remember, whenever people do certain things, like my wife, you and my wife are so much alike.
Capricorn.
Through and through, right? Like, it's whether or not you believe in that kind of stuff, whatever, like literally every best friend I've had in life has been Capricorn.
And
it's
likewise
weird.
with the Aries.
Like, there's this archetype of person, and so often I have to sit there and look at my wife and be like, why are you trying to make sense of what this person is doing? It has nothing to do with you. Like, because people very rarely are actually thinking about how their behavior is going to affect you on like a personal level. Like, unless they're being malicious, and like really just going out there to like try to hurt your feelings. But even when they're doing that, it's like this autopilot. They're not really sitting there thinking, like, what if I was in this person's shoes? Like, it's all just knee-jerk bullshit, right? And this industry is rife with it. It's pretty crazy. Like, coming from just all the different paths I've taken in life, and like the different like communities that come with all these different trades. And I kind of figured, after doing the special effects thing in California, which, like, you want to talk about artsy weirdos, like, it is literally nothing but artsy fucking weirdos. Like, that's it. And with that comes really big egos and really like bombastic personalities. So like,
bombastic.
Just constant ego clash after ego clash is just constant, right? And then coming into something like this, which, outside looking in, it looks very much like it's rough and tough, blue collar, like kind of work. Like, it's a bunch of men that, you expect to behave like fucking men, and they don't. They act like a bunch of like middle school girls. It's the Mean Girls clique. It's fucking hilarious.
Well, it's not, obviously all of them, but a
lot, right? That's not everyone, right?
The meme with Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny, and he's like holding the thing with the the red line. So like, we've done that before, and what we realized was that it's
like 17 dudes all
there's
together.
17. So we actually pulled the data on that. There was 17 men. And of the 17 men, 14 of them belong to the same 3 companies, right? 2 of those companies are geographically our closest competitors.
Right.
So it did impact our business. Like, people would really want the product, or they'd really want to do business, but, they didn't want to get involved in the internet drama that we were in. And it's like, what internet drama were we in, man? People made memes about, my wife, and like did just horrible things to my family. And, short of, I don't know, it's a bizarre world. But yeah, you're right. And Brandon and I talked about this a little bit when we talked. It's like the weird mix of contractor and artist, right? And you can
can you just put some of these around
the artist.
There you go.
So, clearly, and it really, the industry breaks down from, surface prep as a whole. And, concrete's the second most consumed product in the world. So decorative concrete, obviously, it's a pretty large industry. It cycles down from surface prep to, polish and coatings and, various other trade. But really, in the coatings industry specifically, and a little bit of the surface prep, there is just this clearly kind of delineated line between, in my opinion, artist and contractor, and you can see it in the metallics. That's where that's where you find it, right?
The metallics tell all.
Yeah, truly, you can decode, in my opinion, which side of the line they sway based on their metallics. In my first year, with ballistics, I traveled out and did like 36 classes, right? So I got to sit. It gave me a unique opportunity to sit in the warehouses of my competitors.
Yeah.
Because again, we're competing on multiple fronts. So, I was able to see the behind the scenes. So as I built my distribution and supply, I took, I think, the best ideas from, so many folks, and I kind of made this big, casserole of all the distributions in America. And I think that's honestly, outside of the people within our business, that's what makes it so special, is we really try to hone in on all the kind of cool, innovative ways that people are out there doing things. There are some, even in our industry, there are some artists that just want to freelance, man. They don't want anything to do with it. So I was worried, actually, when you and I first started talking, that you were going to be like, yeah, it's cool, man, but it's really not my style. So I think the first time we ever met in person, I had invited you down to the house or down to get some countertop epoxy, and it was late, like a Friday night or something, like super late. And I was like, don't worry about it, man. Just come down. I'll leave my door open. Hop in the guest room. We'll get up in the morning.
Tuesday. I remember.
Was it during the week?
It was a Tuesday, and the next day you had a pretty important meeting, and I was like, this girl decided, I want you to do my countertops in the salon she was building, and the time frame was very short, and it was like, oh shit, like I have to start on this like today, like it has to start now, and I was looking to switch, like I was trying different resins at this point. Like whenever I first got into the whole epoxy thing, I was a stone coat guy through and through. Pardon me. And then, just naturally working with so many different materials through my artistic endeavors, it's like, I just want to try new shit. Like I never want to like rely on something like wholeheartedly, because all too often you have people that start switching formulas and not saying anything about it. And you could be, putting something down, expecting a certain result and then not getting it, even though it's the way it worked every other time before. Yeah. So just naturally, start looking around at other resins. And as soon as I realized that ballistics also had, bulletproof, and I don't even think you guys had a countertop epoxy out at that point.
I think you're right.
And I just kept being like, hey, like if you have a countertop epoxy or something that would work for that, like let me know. I want to try it. And then finally it was like, we have Mach 1, and I'm like, oh, sweet, hell yeah. And then literally like a couple of days after that, this girl's like, yep, let's go, let's do this. And so I'm like, shit, all right, I really want to try Mach 1. So I messaged you and was like, all right, I'm Googling. It's a pretty much 5-hour drive down. I was like, okay, if I leave here right now, like shit, no, you guys will be closed by the time I get there. I was like, can you just leave it in a bush? Like, do you have a bush outside? Like, I'll just grab it from there. And you were like, all right, just here's my address. Come to my house. Here's the code to my house. And I remember standing there in the kitchen, just looking at my phone, and just like every alarm in my head's going off. Like, he's going to trap you. Like,
he's going to murder you.
Some guy in Virginia, like
you're going to be on the next pool video.
I'm like, I'm going to end up in the fucking dungeon or something. Like, I kept looking at my wife, like, should I go? Should I do this? She was like, I mean, why not? Like, just go. Like, this seems like it's supposed to happen. And I was like, okay. So like, just, I'm sure now you know me well enough. Like I totally like, I was armed when I got to your house just in case, but no, nothing weird happened. Thankfully, I walked in, went to the guest bedroom and there was a muffin. There was a muffin just like sitting right there on your little desk. And I was like, this muffin just touched my heart. Like I took a picture of it and sent it to Krista. I'm like, this is a fucking homemade muffin. Like, this is awesome. This is great. And then, morning time rolled around. You were getting up, and I'm like rolling out of bed after a couple of hours of sleep, and I'm, throwing on my clothes, and you like knocked on the door, and you're like, "Can I open it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And like you opened, and you stuck your head in and just like said, "Hey." And then like as soon as like we made eye contact, I was like, "Oh, whoa." It's one of those moments where it's like every so often you meet someone where you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like this, like I know you somehow. Mm-hmm. And I feel like you had the same just like, oh shit kind of moment. And
I mean, I knew, dude, right off. Like I try to listen to the intuition of my wife and the crazy ideas in my head. Mm-hmm. And that combination tends to work real well. And, the metaphorical muffin, dude, that's just who we are. And I would have happily, done, obviously, with a little bit of screening and Facebook stalking. But I would give, man, if I could, to everybody. And, what a cool relationship we've been able to build from it. Mm-hmm. And that's all I've really wanted with this whole team, man. Getting people to understand, even the teammates to kind of understand my vision has been a little bit tough. I think you picked right up on it pretty quick.
Immediately.
Yeah.
And it just made sense to me because like one of my biggest things is just art in general benefits when there's a healthy culture around it and a healthy competitive nature, like the best art you're ever going to get from artists is whenever they are around other capable artists. Mm-hmm. It just kind of ignites that thing in an artist where they see somebody that's really killing it. And, sometimes unfortunately that comes out as like just bitter jealousy and like trying to like cut people down. And that happens too often, but the best of the best out there that I've ever interacted with are always just like, I love seeing somebody kill it. Cause then it's like, oh shit, mm-hmm. I want to try to do that. It's just that like fun,
man, and
childlike competition.
I love, I am not a great artist, right? But I can build the hell out of a canvas. And that's what I've realized my position in life is, right? I'm a visionary and I'm a creator. Mm-hmm. And, I've always been blessed with the ability to build. It's really what I did in healthcare. I used to build programs, and so did Megan. We built programs from the ground up. If I could get down to the nitty-gritty details of all of the things I did to build these programs, it's great. And now they're, all worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and they do great things. But the coolest part of it is I can stand back in our own community to this day and be like, yeah, that's happening because I built it, 13 years ago. And like, we've saved this many lives. We did this many. So I've had the glory of like, seeing my vision and my creations come to life even before building this business. And I was able to build Ballistics. I was able to build Megan's. We built Bulletproof, and the link between everything really is the artistry team. We've got the distribution and supply. We've got the top coat. We've got the showroom, and what a great, amazing, kind of platform for this school, that's in development. But the artistry team are the people that are out there on the front lines, talking about the products, pulling people together. Cool, man. So we've got obviously you, Danny Carrero, Dan's Hands, Ileana from Savita, which she's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
She's been my favorite for years.
Dude.
I've followed her for 4 years,
she's
something like that.
Incredible. She's so cool.
Yeah.
And we
so
have
down to earth.
Yeah. So we have this class, and it's April 9th and April 10th here at Coating Central, Fredericksburg, Virginia. Venetian plaster. So she is actually flown in this famous Venetian plaster installer from Italy. And this guy is coming in to teach in Chicago first, and then they're going to come over to Coding Central. And I think we're gonna try and do a class of 30. So if anyone's interested, I believe the price is $8.99. But you can come and stay in Fredericksburg and stay downtown. I get these beautiful, presidential rooms from the publisher, and those Courtyard Marriott rooms for like dirt cheap. You can come stay, hang out with the artistry team. I know the McCunes will be here from Glamtiques. Obviously Alan Cadena will likely come up. He usually does.
Mr. Hands, he said he's
Danny,
for sure going to be.
Danny will be here for sure. And then Chad. So Chad, I did our first podcast with Chad. What a cool thing, man! Because he's not part of the artistry team per se. He's actually kind of pioneering the forefront of the contractor elite group.
Yeah.
And that's why we did the very first podcast the way that we did. And if you haven't watched it, it's really good. If you're just thinking about getting into the industry, he talks about kind of taking a leap and just blindly, kind of just following your nose. And and I think that was actually really good, healthy discussion. But the contractor elite group is really geared towards the guys that don't feel like artists, right, that still want to get into this industry and maybe take a more practical approach. And, I love it. So that was...
what's so crazy is like, I was kind of getting to it before, like the reason why I'm Madden Wolf online, I didn't want an online presence anymore. Like, it was probably 2021, sometime probably mid 2021. I had deleted my original Facebook, my Instagram. Like I stopped using which is now like my personal Instagram, Mad Wolf Co. Because I went from the special effects world to, Lucius was born. We left California. I went into prototyping and designing toys, like collectible figures and statues, and like essentially, toys for grown-up nerds. Mm-hmm. And then from that, I also did a little bit of like bootleg toys, like just a little limited run, just take two intellectual properties, smash them together, make a toy, which even just like the packaging and everything, like it's all just so art intensive, it's like.
And side note,
yes,
the equivalent to your muffin, you brought me little
resin figures,
like hand painted resin figures, and I value those things, man. I really appreciate handmade things, and it's totally cool.
That's all that these do. Like mm-hmm. my whole job for, how old am I now? 35. 15 years has been just even longer, really, almost 20. Because like from the time I was my mid-teens, like I was getting paid to create shit for people, whether it just be the most ridiculous stuff. Like my neighbor growing up, he had bought a brand new Troy-built riding lawnmower, like bright red lawnmower, and he was like, "I really like. I'd love to do like hot rod flames on this." And I was sitting there looking at it like, I could just see them. Like I could just see them on the body lines. Like I'm like, I could do that. And he was like, yeah. I was like, shit, yeah, let's do it. And so it was like, I made like $500 to like put hot rod flames on this guy's lawnmower.
It's funny.
It's just people have ideas. Oh, I wish I could, and then my brain just starts going. And it's like there's so many different ways to build what people can imagine, and most people think it's just going to stay there in imagination land, but it doesn't have to. Right after high school, like I did a tattoo apprenticeship, like I went through the whole thing, and then like I finished it. I did one, and then was like, yeah, everyone's like, pretty solid, man. Holy shit. I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this. They're like, what? And I'm like, I don't want to do it. I'm going to go do something else. And they're like, what the fuck? I'm like, you just spent all this time learning this. And I was like, but it's not for me, So I just went on to the next thing. The last year of high school, like I discovered sculpture. And my whole life leading up, it was just art. And I'd messed around with like clay and shit before that. But like it was something about at that point in life, getting my hands on clay and just running with it. And I remember my sculpture teacher art teacher looking at a sculpture I was doing, and he was like, this is so good. And I'm like, this is awful. And he's like, no, I don't think you understand, man. Like, that's not easy to do that. And then like he was showing me examples of his sculptures, and I was like, Oh,
I'm pretty good at this.
I was like, oh, okay. And so, growing up into like horror films and sci-fi, like, just it was very special effects heavy stuff. And even being a theater kid, like I went from, I did enjoy acting until I
Me too.
just had to deal with people and the egos and all that. So I just went behind the scenes. Like I really got into like I directed a lot, and then also just like prop design, scene, set design, special
That's a big
effects.
part of my childhood too, man. Not to cut you off, but my mom put me like right up on stage, and it was always like, if you can sit and convince 500 people of something, you can convince anybody, and it was like always a thing that I didn't really understand until I was standing there like at my first job interview or my first public speaking. I'm like, wow, this is really easy.
It's just acting.
Yeah, exactly. But I was actually in a couple of small roles made for TV, movies, and some commercials. My brother and sister and I were in like, Kodak commercials and buckle up safety commercials through the 90s and stuff. But it was something that I really enjoyed. And it's actually what I went to school for first, was editing and post-production. A major in business and a minor in media. Right. But that was actually like the first real program that I developed. I went and became part of this Fox affiliated program, and I built this whole youth, kind of kids editing, post and shooting program. It was pretty cool. It was called Yes for Youth. And it was neat, man.
I'm just realizing, has this been like, how many years since you started the first company?
Which one? Just
what got you into, this world
of decorative concrete?
Yeah.
Oh, 7 and some change, 8, I guess.
Was this an 8-year journey just to get into media again? Is that there were much easier ways.
I've told Justin this whole time that because we were talking about this the other day. I was like, yeah, I like these AI things, but I'd really like to do this, and I'm going to do this. And he's like, well, like, you can let me do it. That's what I'm here for. And I'm like, dude, you're never going to let that hobby up from me. I love it. I love, I've always made like our ads and our little movies and, everything for our social media. And that's just, I totally dig it. So, but I think that was my art, and I was good at that. I edited for New England Sports Network, show called Inside Line, NASCAR. And I was a kid, man. I graduated high school at 16, and I had a job that was paying me over 6 figures. And I was still going to school full time. I was in college, and I had to also pay, so I was installing flooring. I've always been a dude that just goes from the morning. In the morning I get up and I just push through until I fall asleep, typically with my phone in my face. But that's always been me. It's just I'm always doing something. I have to feel productive, or else I get stagnant, and I don't like that feeling. It comes with anxiety and depression, and so I found if I just keep things rolling all the time, there's no time for that.
Anytime someone's like, dude, how do you do it? Because there'll be times where you've seen it too, where like literally I will work for like 30 hours straight, and people just don't get it.
Yeah.
And it's like when you have so much turmoil going on in your head, if you can just keep moving, it doesn't bother you anywhere near as much.
Yeah, I think this, I say this every so often, and people probably get tired of it, but, life is just a balancing act. Even on a cellular level, cells are trying to maintain homeostasis, and you have to find this even keel to kind of keep going. And I think that, we're self-disciplined, but we are 100%. It is up to us to make sure that you don't slide way too far off the deep end.
Yeah.
And I think that I think everybody has a potential to get lost. And I think as long as you get lost or get addicted to the right things, I'm addicted to the balance of working, like we were just talking about, and being a good father and, a good husband. And it's like, if I'm going to do one of those things, I'm going to do it real well, and it's going to be all I think about. So, luckily I've had a wife that's been super supportive. Obviously, with your pieces, the layering is what really kind of grabs me. The depth of your pieces are kind of unexplainable. I've always found new things in all of your pieces, when I go back and I look at it, I'm like, oh, this is here and that's there, and
Different lighting.
yeah, it's totally
It's all optical illusions.
it is totally a different pace and a different flow. And back to contractors and artists, you've got a lot of contractors in this industry right now trying to figure out how to do it as fast as possible so they can collect a check and get on to the next one.
Right.
And that's what I'm seeing with these
2-day installs, one day install, one afternoon.
puddle pushed metallics and these just super fast turnover jobs. And you came down, we did our garage as like our first big get together, and the garage was wild. It's a big Fibonacci spiral, and I'll attach a picture on there. And we still we've got the aprons to do and the trim work to do, but the floor came out really cool. And even though we spent a ton of time on the epoxy, we overshot the pigment.
I hate it.
So listen, it just didn't settle. So that particular product was actually one that we were sampling. It was supposed to be the cat's meow, and it didn't work with what we were looking for. We should have stuck to what we knew, within our own products. But why better, or what better area than your own garage to play?
Yeah.
And it's still a beautiful floor. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But that's kind of where, we had these 3 and 4 a.m. sessions where we're out there just, hand applying layer after layer of 18-hour stretches. But I think, getting to the point, I saw, you and how you worked throughout that process. And I was like, man, I totally dig this, and I dig this pace, but nobody out there that doesn't understand how much that takes is going to have that kind of buy-in. But what I have seen universally over your work is you have become like nationally recognized, right? I mean, people across this whole industry know your name. Your style is very specific, and while there are a lot of really good artists out there doing their thing, I think that you are far aside from the pack and the wolf pack. And and I think it will be interesting when these classes go on to come and learn from Madden. So that's what we're really looking forward to in this is, breaking down technique and breaking down art to a very elementary level for people. So the way that the structure is for Coatings College, it is 12 classes that are broken up between beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And depending on how you kind of, what you have for a portfolio and how you're vetted, you can start off, high intermediate and go through the advanced classes. For those of, folks that don't have pertinent experience, you're really starting off in the beginner classes. And we're set them up as 30-person cohorts, 30 students at a time. We run a cohort every semester through all 12 classes. And then for the general public and people that, want to do drop-ins and things like that, we've got additional classes outside of that.
There's 2 different hemispheres to the brain, and the idea that I'm not sure if it's been disproven yet at this point, but like for the longest time, the idea was like the left side is far more logical, like it likes mathematics and, like really distinct reasoning, like it always wants an answer, and it's, most contractors are going to lean into the left brain, and then you have the right side of the brain, which is just, it's just weird, right? It's just all abstract. And, a lot of artists that are like true, like artists in this industry, there's not many actual artists. There's a lot of people that, figured out they can push some colors together and get something that looks pretty cool. And then I'm an artist. And then there's people that, and you can tell,
I'm the GOAT.
The guys that come in and they have like a background in like actual art, and whether it just be like a just natural talent or it's somebody that was trained, you can see it just in like the way that they're approaching their craft. You have to worry about that balance, the contrast. There's like flow, like all of this is to a lot of people second nature, and to a lot of people completely foreign.
Yeah.
And so what I'm doing with, my portion of Coatings College is essentially taking, I'm calling it practical art theory, right? It's you could literally spend years in like college style courses, just nose in a textbook reading about all this obscure art information. And that's great and fine, but like, what is like truly essential? Like, and being able to take those basic art principles and essentially assign like a visual formula to them. And
think about just all of the kind of base contractors out there that just if they had a concept of the color wheel, like just, your metallics, even if they, don't flow out the way that you want them, just coordinating your colors would do so much for so many floors out there, man.
So much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like one thing I do on most consultations is I take a color wheel. Clients will say like, oh, I'm really wanting these colors. And I'll be like, oh, corresponding. It's like, oh, okay. And then you get there, and if you have that color wheel and you're looking around at like, how their house is set up, what kind of color schemes are being carried through, how much natural light are they getting from outside? How much is that light going to change across the seasons? Because, you have like green and all that reflecting in. Then you have the dreary cold winters where it's just gray and white, what's going to be reflecting back. Like all of this adds up to where it's like, it's part of the formula for me to know how to approach something. And giving people, instead of come to a class, watch me throw some stuff down and like, oh, well, now you can mimic it because I'll let you watch me do it. Mm-hmm. And I help guide you some. It's like, instead, no, I want to teach you the basic art principles in a way that doesn't feel like you're learning something totally foreign.
Exactly.
Because you can take that and relate it to exactly what you're doing in a coating. And so it's like, it's just giving people another vocabulary or like an extra, layer to their toolbox with how they approach a job. Right. And I genuinely think most people would benefit from that because it doesn't matter if you're doing flake installs, quartz floors, like even just basic polishing and shit like that. Like these ideas of balance, flow, contrast, like it gives the eye something that it likes. It's brain candy. Like when you lay your eyes on something that has those basic principles at play, even if something super simple, it's just satisfying to look at.
Yep. Well, we started talking about this 2 years ago with this school. And it was, right on the tip of our tongues. And then like into last year, I think I just called you and was like, yo, I got the building. And you were like, what?
Yeah, I was like, I was in New York.
Yeah, I was like, I got the building. We're going to do it. It took us about 3 months to do everything. And that was,
I jumped in was it
5 weeks or so?
Yeah, about 5 weeks.
Yeah. So when we were doing my garage, we were all sitting there in the kitchen, and I don't remember who said it, but it might have been Chad. Somebody looked at me and was like, man, you really do live the American dream. And I sat there and I was like, yeah, this is what people want. They want the ability to create, build, and sustain, and
they think that's what they want, but that takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of being uncomfortable, and people are really bad at being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. They want the result of that.
Yeah.
Right. And we talk about that sometimes, but it must be nice thing, it was nice. Unfortunately for me, I don't remember like my youngest daughter as a baby, and that is tough. I was there every night, most every night if I wasn't on a grinder or, trying to figure things out. But, I gave up a lot and I sacrificed a lot to build what I have currently. Honestly, in my business, I had to decide whether or not I wanted to make a mortgage payment or give a guy a pallet of epoxy. Yep. Like I was at that point, and
scrape by sometimes.
I'm telling you, man. And you might take a hit on your credit. You might have to make a decision to get to the next step. But if you have the faith, really this endless potential in this industry right now.
It is. All right. So for years, right, what actually introduced me to, because like I've got, the whole background in special effects, sculpture, mold making, casting. So much of the materials that I used in that industry is the same thing, right? It's just slightly different formulations, and that's really it. Same general, materials, right? So when I came into this, like my background with, my understanding of the materials, especially like working in layers and everything like that, that's all special effects brain. So I worked for this one shop out in LA that used to make stuff for the Warner Brothers archives. So if you walk into this big, just super nondescript warehouse looking building, it's just got the WB badge at the top and that's it. And it looks like it's going to be a whole bunch of nothing. And then you walk in here and it's just like, it's like that ending scene. And
I've always wondered how they like log and catalog all that stuff.
Not like it's not as organized as you would expect it to be. I'll
like
tell
a
you
producer's like, hey, we're shooting a new Game of Thrones. We need such and such. And some guy's like, that's in warehouse 17 on second floor. Like, how do they catalog all that
aisle
stuff?
17, bay B, shelf.
How do they organize it? Because those sets are moving in and out so fast and everything's getting shoved in a truck.
And a lot of it gets destroyed. A lot of it gets recycled.
Wild. You would think that they would have an entire business of just selling movie memorabilia right out of those warehouses.
That is a thing.
I'm sure it makes its way out.
Like, oh yeah, for sure. Dude, working in special effects, there were so many times I'm sitting there like moving like these molds and like I'll be moving this giant thing. Like, what the fuck is this? And my boss is like, oh, that's Pumpkinhead. And I'm like, like Stan Winston's Pumpkinhead. He's like, yeah, that's the Pumpkinhead 1 master mold. I'm like,
so cool.
What? Like just these random pieces of like movie history. So like we have these big molds that are, just big sheets, big silicone sheets with the texture in them. And we're taking this clear stuff and mixing it up and tinting it and laying it out. And, my boss is like, this is epoxy. And I'm like, yeah, okay. He was like, you can do a lot of cool stuff with this. And I'm like, all I've ever used it for is like laminating stuff together and casting. That's it. And he was like, oh, like you can do floors with that, countertops. And I'm like, really? And this was 2013, I'm like, so what was happening in the industry at that point? Like you look back,
oh man,
at like the best of the best, like eye-grabbing, cool, like decorative stuff, and like it wasn't really anything to write home about. But like there were some pieces out there.
That's why Mike Quist was doing so well.
It grabbed my attention. Where I was like, damn, this is cool.
Yeah, shortly thereafter, that's why Mike Quist did so well, man, because he just.
People don't give that man credit for just the level of artist he is. Like you can see it in his photographs. And his brush work when he paints, like ridiculous.
And we have had the pleasure.
Talented.
It's super talented dude. And just, the dirty pours, like, people need to credit Mike with some of this stuff, man. This natural stone that this guy come up with from epoxy was just incredible. And I had the pleasure of meeting him a few years back and remaining good friends. And since you guys have, clicked and become good friends, and honestly, man, like he was through all of the bullshit in this industry, he was like one of the first people that I looked up to. And I told my wife, I was like, I'm so glad to be looking up to somebody. Most people in his position right now would be like, deuces, I'm out. We'll never see you again. And
I said to him recently, I was like, I love the fact that you're still doing it because most people, you're absolutely right, they'd be kicking their feet up.
Yeah.
But like,
well, and he's got Mitchie, right? Mitch is his son, and he is. You can tell he just loves teaching him, man.
Yeah.
They did that video of them in a bathroom, and he was like, "What do you think, Mitch?" And he's like, "I'm pretty uncomfortable, Dad." Like that reaction was just so funny. And Mike's been in front of the camera a million times, out there doing that. But anyway, you said 2013, 14. You're right. I mean, to find something out there that wasn't. I mean, I guess Alicre was kind of running the scene at that point. Metallics were. Reflector floors. They were doing them completely and totally differently. Some
of the first pieces I saw that like actually grabbed my attention, and I had no idea who he was at that point, was Landis. Like some of those works out there, some of those first ones that went like viral when it comes like epoxy floors, like quite a few of those were his. And so it was just this thing that stayed in the back of my mind for all those years. Like I would just randomly just like, epoxy countertops. And then I would just see like, what was happening, style wise and everything. And all the time I'd be looking at it going, it's that artist thing, where like you see something cool and you just go like, I want to try that. And just all the time, like, I want to try that. It looks, I think if they just did this a little bit different, you could probably just all the time, right?
Yep.
And then 2020 rolled around. At this point, my wife's salon had been open for two years, I believe. Yeah. So like COVID rolled through, everything shut down, including the salon for, I think we were closed for a total of like 2 months. Like it was almost 3. Like it was ridiculous. It went from like 2 weeks to like, ooh, like scary.
Maybe
you know?
we're not open again.
Yeah. And I mean, I kept looking at my wife going like, there just reached a point where, you know, everything's shutting down. World's getting really weird at that point. And I'm just like, I want to be self-employed altogether. Like, I don't want anybody to be like, hey, they say that we can't go to work. I'd rather, you know, let me ask my boss. How do I feel about it? Fine. Okay, I'm going to work. So I just started working solo. And a lot of it was like carpentry type stuff because like in my, you know, mid-teens, I did some work with my uncle, and he's a master carpenter, and he just taught me, you know, just the basics of building stuff, and like it just kind of stuck around. Like I've always just liked using my hands to do things, right? And even when it comes to just like basic, you know, swinging a hammer and building something, you know, like an addition on a house or a porch, or, you know, like just renovating a room, whatever. It's like, even that in my brain is art. Like there's craftsmanship involved with that.
For sure.
So like, that's how I just kind of slipped into it. And I was like, I care about the product that I'm giving the customer, you know? And while everything was shut down in the salon, I designed and built that back in 2018. And so much of it was just like thrown together because it was like a 5-week project, and it was like minimal budget, you know, like I literally went and got a rough sawn wood from an Amish mill. Like they were literally pulling it through the saw and then throwing it in the back of this van. Like it was just waterlogged, like fresh cut wood. And I did all this woodworking where it was like, you know, I just built as much of it as I could with just rough cut wood in these 2 hands, you know? And once we had that time down, I was like, all right, well, there's some stuff I want to like do different in here. And one of them was the countertops. So I got my kit. You know, the wife wanted new countertops for the reception desk, but then also the back color bar where like she mixes her colors and everything. She loves her crystals. That's for damn sure. And one of her favorites is tiger's eye. And she was like, I want countertops that look like just a big slab of tiger's eye. And I was like, that sounds fun. Hell yeah, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, at this point, I had been watching, I spent hours watching Mike Quist, hours, right? And then like I would, you know, kind of go off the little rabbit holes off of, you know, Artist Till Death and, oh, come on, brain. Of course, you know, Rhonda, RK3, something Deborah's Ditties. Is that it? I forget.
Did you say Deborah's Titties?
No, Deborah's Ditties, which does like insane work, like replicating these natural stone looks, right? And just again, that artist brain, especially, you know, doing the whole special effects thing. It was like your whole job when it comes to like doing makeups and everything is like, yeah, you want this zombie, this dead thing, or this alien or this monster, like it has to look real. So like you have to learn how to paint things to look like real flesh when they're not real flesh. So like there's so much, you know, intrinsic painting. And so like even as you're casting these materials that you're making your actual prosthetic out of, like you're working in layers to give like this depth and liveliness to fake skin, right? But then also like, you know, finishing off props and shit like that. So much of it is like getting super realistic faux finishes. And when I came into the whole epoxy thing, I just kind of took that whole skill set and mindset with me. So from the first go, you know, my wife's wanting this tiger's eye slab. I did this one little tiny sample pour and like just kind of messed with the material and was like, okay, yeah, I feel good. It's time to do the whole real thing. So like I jumped into this big L-shaped countertop and then like a full size, you know, back bar countertop. I mean, that thing's 9 feet long, you know, 2 feet deep, like sizable areas to be, you know, only a couple of hours of experience.
Experimenting, yeah. for sure.
But I just jumped into it. And I did it. And, my wife absolutely loves them. It literally got me into doing this as, my job, because all these clients started coming in once the salon was back open, and immediately they're like, where did you get those? And she's like, my husband made them. And they're like, how? And she's like, he's magic. I don't know. Just, he can make you anything you want. And so that was it, and literally from the get, it was this challenge of like, make it look as real as possible. One of the stylists at the salon, like, she had started, and, she has her little, her area, her station. And it was like, oh, she needs like a little shelf just for like more storage space. And Krista's like, my wife, she goes, oh, he'll make you something. I'm like, yeah, of course I will. Yeah, no problem. Let me just throw it on to the itinerary.
Megan used to do that on floors, dude. She'd be like, oh, Corey can come and do this. And next thing you know, I'm on hands and he's hand
I didn't even sign up for this.
What is this? But oh well.
One of my biggest things is like, a lot of people, whenever they do their primer coat, it's like a paint. They paint on their primer coat, their undercoat, like a bonding primer. And even if you're just working with, white, and it can be tinted at all, like, it just makes sense. Like, if you're going for a natural stone that has like a lot of depth to it, all that is happening is light is traveling, is hitting down into whatever the most opaque surface is in this pour, and it's bouncing back out. So in my mind, even the very base layer, it really matters. So if you start throwing in just like breakups of color, like just heavy contrast of color, even though you're pouring a mica over it, that mica is not like truly opaque. Yeah. Like, you can see
got a little
through
translucency for sure.
So just that alone, just throwing that color breakup on the very base layer, and like you've seen me since then, like I'll use reflective. Like, I want the most reflective mica possible, or like, foils or anything like that, where you lay this down and it's going to give you that hot pop of color, because it's literally the light reflecting off of it and coming back through.
Yep.
Yeah, it's optical illusion. That's all it is. It's just, my little kid brain that wanted to be a special effects artist and, have optical illusions fool people. And
sure.
I'm just doing it with resin now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there's true appreciation, I think, from other artists. And what I've seen is you draw in other artists from the industry because they're going through the algorithm, and all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, what's that? And that was the first thing that caught my eye when I saw your stuff. I was like, that's different. I think that it's amazing because you can see the clear difference in some people's talents. Now, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of contractors out there that have, I know one specifically, he's got, 300,000 followers out there, a couple of really good catchy videos. Next thing you know, they got a platform. What's crazy about that is, you see those people like become like idolized artists because they
become the face of the industry.
Yeah,
too.
Because they had a couple of videos that took off, and all of a sudden these people are all getting their hands shaken, and they're taking pictures with them at World of Concrete, and it's like,
ooh,
yeah, and but not even.
I won't hate on the success. Like,
no, and of
course,
get
that bag, do your thing.
Yeah, of course not, and I support that 100%. But the true art of this industry, I think, is what makes coating college so much different. You can go to Megan's, which is our distribution store, and you, for the last 5 years, go there and take classes and learn and excel. And we've seen that with so many people that come through. This is totally different. This is really for people that want to take it to the next level. You want to build your business to be able to have a potential to put down a rock solid freaking knock out of the park $30, $40. And I'll say that and people will laugh. You're never going to get $30 or $40 a square foot. Yes, you will.
Terrazzo guys get like $80 a square foot.
Yeah, it's
like, you can charge ridiculous money for a floor if the quality is there.
Yeah, it's, people will pay anything for anything. It was, what that banana in the wall sell for last year is $2 million or something
ridiculous.
It's, and I'm not saying we're not comparing. This isn't ridiculous. What I'm saying is I believe that this program has the ability to refine your skill set to where you are a well-rounded artist and installer. You know, you can come here and learn Venetian plaster. You can come here and learn vertical concrete carvings, you know, carve your own fireplace. And then you can learn how to do a mixed media floor, you know, then come back and learn how to cast your own countertops. You know, we'll do GFRC. We'll show, you know, custom mold making. There's everything. I mean, you literally can do everything here.
Absolutely.
And we have somebody on the team for, in my opinion, most to all of the modalities in this industry.
It's a really well-rounded team.
Yeah.
And you have multiple on the team that are like Swiss Army knives.
Yes.
Like it's like from the get, whenever we started working together and you were like, you're going to be like the countertop guy. And immediately I was like, I don't want to be the countertop guy. I can do anything, man. Like I don't want to be limited to the countertop guy.
Yeah.
And like, and I remember like the first time where I was like, I'm going to figure out how to put like insane amounts of detail in a floor. And you were like, okay, man.
Let's see it. And
All
you did.
right.
Yeah, you did. And it's cool because you're right. There are members that are multifaceted. Like even when we were building this place, you know, we were like, well, we need like to emulate a barber shop, right? We need a barber shop floor. And we all kind of looked at each other and we're like, Danny has that like quintessential, I'm going to kick this thing's ass and make the killer barbershop floor. You know, and still that dude is rocking his market, man. You know, he's
absolutely killing it.
He's
like,
crushing it.
New Jersey's like, this is buffet.
Well, you know, it is. And the thing is, it's way more competitive there. There are a lot more installers. And he is just crushing. And, you know, you see the content this dude puts out, and he's got, and you know, the one thing that I've noticed, you know, is like you and I and him and some others on the team, just phenomenally supportive wives. Like
I would not be sitting here doing this in general.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for my wife.
Yeah.
And God bless her. Like she couldn't do her life and run the Infinite Alchemy brand without me. Mm-hmm. Like, and she knows it. Like, more often than not, it's not like a financial value that I bring to the table in a relationship. It's the fact that like my mantra is I'll figure it out. It doesn't matter what she wants to do. No matter how impossible it seems, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And 95% of the time, I figure that shit out. Mm-hmm. I don't consider myself successful yet. Like, yeah, I've got a pretty cool portfolio, but like, my portfolio is very limited at the same time, you know, like it's some real prime pieces, but you know, like I'm not out there, you know, having my door beaten down, because most people realize like once they start talking to me about a project, it's like, oh, you want to mix media in your commercial space. Like that's like $45 a square foot. Like, oh, by the time you get to the end of it and you want like, you know, these crackling embers and you want it to light up and everything. And I can make all that happen. Like I can make your space look like it belongs in like Universal or mm-hmm. Disney World, you know? But they see the price tag and it's like, oh.
Yeah.
So I don't really know if I would consider myself successful, but the point is if you want to be really good at something and dedicate a lot of time to it, you kind of have to have a supportive partner.
Yeah.
It's absolutely essential.
Well, and Lynette is that to Danny. You know,
Yep.
You can see that team, man. You know, they are one solid moving force. There was a reason I named Megan's, right? It had nothing to do with me trying to give her a store. I was building something that every day I walked in and out of, and I looked up as a reminder, you know, this is why you're doing this. Dude.
Yeah.
You know, and my main goal when I first started these companies was to get her home, because that's what she wanted. She didn't want to work her tail to the bone, and she was and she still is an amazing, you know, nurse and provider, and but she wanted to raise our children, you know, so that's why I called Megan's, and you know, she has been just the most amazing supportive person, not to me, but like our whole team. Like she's
wonderful.
The artistry team, you know, all of the family at work, and I think that's such an important piece. You know, the art that you're talking about, you know, that you're putting into these floors. The sad part about the internet is a lot of the really nice, celebrity homes and custom floors are all done on non-disclosures. They're all on NDA. So you can't see it. I mean, you did for a little while. Shout out to like Daryl Bates, who was out doing, he's out in like Vegas, out in the Southwest. He was doing, some really cool floors. And then, you saw those NDAs really get reeled in hard. We did one for a very, very popular pop star, the most popular pop star in all of the world. And what a cool experience, for those folks. And we've done a whole bunch of, basketball players and celebrities and, and ballistics is in so many celebrity homes and, really cool. Derwin did a whole bunch. Derwin and I have known each other for a long time. He's from, 45 minutes up the road. So, he did a great job at representing ballistics, and helping kind of build the brand and getting it into, some of these celebrity homes. He loves the product and he's always loved the product. And, he took it to like T.I.'s house. That was one of those outside jobs that we still look at today. It's a black and yellow. What a beautiful home too. And if you look through the ballistics portfolio on Facebook, you can find it. It's a big black, like plantation home, like matte black, the whole house. And then these big black columns and this big open porch and black and yellow metallic just down the stairs, which normally you would think like, nah, it's kind of cheesy. And then, but you look at it and you're like, holy smokes, it's a really sick floor.
Yeah.
And good for Derwin. It was simple, but it was clean. And we have Squire on that job. And then, I was a little nervous because, I can't guarantee anything from yellowing, right? You can have epoxy that yellows regardless of the UV.
Yep.
So if I come out there and I say, I guarantee your epoxy won't yellow if you put my ballistics on it, I am out of business,
Sometimes it's not even the epoxy that's yellowing. People don't realize this.
Mm-hmm.
This drives me up the wall. It's like every company that sells resin, especially to like the artsy market, should be pushing the fact that like some of these additives are perfectly fine to put into your epoxy as long as it's this much. Mm-hmm. If you go even 1% over, you've just jump started that yellowing process.
Yep.
So micas, dyes, spray paints,
Yep.
like there are so many things that like it's fine in small amounts.
Well, and that's the cool thing about ballistics too, is it will prevent things from oxidizing, right? That's why, it color enhances and it locks everything in, and it won't oxidize. He decided because that went great and it held up real well, he was going to do this rooftop bar. And then he did this outside pool fountain. And you're talking about 100% solid epoxy, man. And I'm like, dude, like, be careful, And here we are 5 years later, and that rooftop bar is as white as the day it was installed, right?
That's crazy.
It was amazing. And that's why, he, I think, had such a hard time pulling off a Squire. Because he was like, dude, we've got it down to a science.
Yeah.
The problem with Squire was it was very reactive and it didn't like actively gassing surfaces because it was so sensitive and finicky to how it bonded. So if you had an actively gassing epoxy or any kind of residual surfactants, it just rejected. Mm-hmm. And we did such great education on that product. And, we got badgered by some people that had some floors repel, but that's because they didn't listen. They went out there, they tried to chase the RICO window just like people do with urethanes, which is the opposite of what you want to do.
You got to keep things simple.
Want that thing to stabilize. And there were folks out there that would wait 4 or 5 days to top their floor. But the cool part was they could because you didn't have to sand. The floor was stable. And then we
covalent bond.
Yeah, we found an accelerated process where you could actually kind of like stunt the gassing process somewhat, and get a little bit of a window, to get in there and install. And you would run a series of pads, and then boom, you could install if you needed to like get in, get out. And that was a big thing for Derwin because he travels around, he does different homes, and then he's out of there again. So we really kind of honed in and kind of refined and then after Squire we came out with our single component and our SC and our counterattack. I actually we still sell and it's a great product, but I typically steer people for like anti-graffiti and stonescapes and hardscapes and because as we grew, I always said to everybody, you will never get the strength that you get out of a 3-component out of a single component. But it lit a fire in me to try to have a single component that could be what Squire was. Now, don't get me wrong. They're two very different products, in my opinion, right? Yeah. They're very different products. And, Squire really has found its home in the flake industry. Bizarre enough, there are tons and tons of people that still use it over polish and metallics, but it sells into flake because they realized that they could come in at $8.50 when all their competitors were coming in at $7. And they weren't going to come into a race to the bottom, 7, 6, 5, 4. They were coming in at $8.50. And they would come in with their ballistics, with their flake systems at $8.50. And when the customer said, it's a little high, they simply kicked the ballistics to the curb and they installed their flake and poly, right? So people found a way to have a competitive edge. And that's where Squire sells into most commonly right now, is in the flake industry. And these guys are getting $1.50, 1 in every 3 floors. They're closing out, and their profit margins have screamed in comparison, because that gallon of ballistics that does 1,200 square feet, so they're getting usually 2 garages out of 1 gallon, is $300, and they're selling $1.50 a square foot on top of all of their ballistics floors. And what are they offering, right? They're offering a surface that now doesn't have to worry about, a golf cart battery blowing out, or an oil leak, or brake fluid, coolant, slip problems. Yeah. It is a huge fix for lap lines and bird baths and cornrows and all of the things that could go wrong when you're installing a flake. Shoot ballistics over it, it fixes it, right? The big joke became a reality. You got a pool deck, it's a little slick, shoot it with ballistics. That's really where it's grown, is we sell it into flake like you would not believe. And these guys are killing the flake game, and they're keeping their competitors guessing about what they have, and they're not sacrificing their ask. Anyway, I think we'll probably wrap it up. We invite you to come check out Coating Central at 3801 Plank Road, Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Don't forget the C.
Yeah, 3801 Suite C, Plank Road, Fredericksburg, Virginia. And that's coatingscentral.com. For the school, it's coatingscollege.com. Add both on Facebook and Instagram. Of course, Megan's Supply and Design is our distribution company. You can see it at supply, the letter N, design.com. Bulletproofresins.com. And ballistics is at squeezeyourtrigger.com. You can find our products on Amazon, amongst other online retailers, including Costco. Certainly reach out to us and we will help you. Our products are also available through the PPG network now. So any PPG location can sell you any of our stuff. But if you come right to us, we will we'll help you out. And the biggest benefit, I think, of going with a bulletproof or ballistics product right now is the evolution of what we've built here. And if you would like to be part of that, we are working on also software to connect you with the artist of your choice. So if you join the program, or if you want to come to a class and link in, the app will be ready probably sometime around June. But right now we are constructing an ecosystem for you to actually log on, have the ability to have that person as your resource, and have a one-to-one kind of experience in growing your business. Outside of just a sales experience of, hey, use our product. You heard it first from Madden tonight. He is going to gear you towards what the best product is for the job. And hopefully, maybe we have that here. So another notable topic, check out the new white label and private label program. That's actually through Coating Central. Coating Central recently teamed up with labeljockey.com. Gives you the ability to upload your logo, put it on epoxies, polyaspartics, whatever you want, customize your business, and we can actually turn your orders around. First couple of orders under 2 weeks, but repeat orders we can have out to you within 3 days, fully customized for your business. So
you can charge $20 more per kit. Get that sweet, sweet money.
It's a great system that allows people to,
You got to say that it's the best, and there's nothing else like it on the market, though.
It's the GOAT.
It's the best, hands down. There's nothing else like it. This is the X 20,000. It's not the 2,000. It's the 20,000.
It's a great service. You can customize all your stuff. Have a leg up on the competition in your hometown, and keep people guessing what you're using. So. A huge thanks to Madden. Shout out your social medias. How do people find you?
Don't. No. Madden Artistry. No underscore, no nothing. Just Madden Artistry, one word. Instagram, Facebook. That's about it. I'm going to be venturing into YouTube.
Yeah.
Like it's time.
Thank you. And certainly, again, this is Between the Joints with Corey Colson and Madden Wolf.